Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, I'm going to be discussing pie charts. Particularly, 3 pie charts will be discussed in this video because it's the most common type of pie chart. Usually, at the minimum, there will be 2 pie charts, and at the maximum, there will be 4 pie charts. But the examiners love to give 3 pie charts. So in this video, we'll be discussing that. Also, I will be telling you how to write a band 9 pie chart step by step. So let's start with the first step, which is understanding the question as well as the data. Now the data might vary. Sometimes you may be given any type of pie chart, but the question always remains the same, the major statement. So here we'll have a look at that statement and try to understand it properly. So the statement says the 3 pie charts below show the changes in annual spending by a particular UK school in the 1981, 1991 and 2001. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. Now here main features is the most important point. Most students don't pay attention to this keyword and they just start writing everything that they see. That's something that you don't want to do. In fact, you should just be selecting the major things, the major keywords, those that really matter, the major points. And next is, and make comparisons where relevant. Another mistake people make is they just start making comparisons everywhere. There are either too short comparisons or too many comparisons, but here it is mentioned where relevant. It means that the examiner himself wants you to make only relevant and limited comparisons. Don't make too much comparisons, and at the same time don't make too short comparisons. Also, you have a look at the data. Here is the 3 pie charts. One consists of total school spending in 1981, the other consists of total school spending in 1991, and the last one contains total school spending in 2001. So just take a minute to look at it and understand it quickly. Okay, so you understood the data as well as the question. Now you need to be familiar with the format, like how to write the pie chart. So this is the best way. First comes the introduction, then the overview, followed by 2 body paragraphs. You can also write a third one, but then it would be too long, and remember, you are given only 20 minutes to solve task 1. That might not be enough. So just limit yourself to 2 body paragraphs. Another question that students ask me is, can we write the overview after the body paragraphs in the end? Yes, you can, but I would advise you to write overview after the introduction, because sometimes you might run out of time, and if you miss the overview, you are missing a whole band score, because overview is the most important part of whole of the task 1. And it's impossible to get above a band 6 if you don't write an effective overview or miss the overview. So I would advise you to write overview right after the introduction. Now the introduction simply means you have to paraphrase the question. Use synonyms, nothing more. Don't add any type of information from your knowledge. It's simply paraphrasing the question statement. The overview is just like a summary. It consists of some major points, but it doesn't contain too much detail. The major detail comes in the body paragraphs 1 as well as 2. Okay, so you understand the format. Now let's write the introduction. Here the question says, the 3 pie charts below show the changes in annual spending by a particular United Kingdom school in 1981, 1991 and 2001. Now remember, you don't have to change every single word. Just change most of the words, because that's what the examiner looking for. So here, have a look at my paraphrased introduction. Here it's written, the pie charts. Instead of 3 pie charts, I just wrote pie charts. I dropped the 3. Below, I dropped the below because the examiner won't be seeing below. Instead of show, I've written illustrate. The changes is replaced by the alterations. It has exactly the same meaning. Rather than in annual spending, I wrote in the yearly expenses. By a particular United Kingdom school, I wrote of a school in the United Kingdom. And instead of in 1981, 1991, 2001, I just have written during the years 1981, 1991, 2001. So here an effective introduction is being written. It's a band 9 introduction. You can paraphrase it according to your understanding and your knowledge. I paraphrase it in the easiest possible way. Let's move on to the overview. Now in the overview, you have to understand what's the most important point, and just a brief summary of all the points should be included in the overview. You don't need to add any specific detail. Also remember that proportions, percentages, and years, these things should be mentioned in the overview. They don't seem appropriate. Also avoid linking words like however, moreover, furthermore. They are also not suitable for the overview. But you can use the linking word and, that can be used. So let's write the overview. What's the most significant point that you see during these pie charts? From what I observe, it's the teacher's salary that has remained the most budget of the total spending. In the first pie chart is 40%, in the second pie chart is 50%, and the third pie chart is 45%. So first we'll be writing the overview by starting with this point. Overall, the teacher's salaries remain the largest cost to the school. And remember, you shouldn't be writing only one line or one point in the overview. At least 2 to 3 points should be included in the overview. Let's look at the next point. What's the most significant thing? Now most people will say that you can add other worker salaries the second, resources books is the third, followed by furniture, equipment, and insurance. But that won't work because you don't have to write every single information, just the key features, just the summary. So by what I observe, you can see the worker's salary as well as the resources and books budget has decreased over the years, while the expenditure for furniture, equipment, and insurance has increased over the years. So that can be written. It will be an effective overview. Let's write, and while expenditure on other worker salaries and resources decreased, there was a significant increase for the spending on furniture, equipment, and insurance. Good. Here we've written effective overview, and it's also a band 9 overview that covers every single detail. Remember that only a few details should be included in the overview. The majority of details will be included in the body paragraphs. So let's move on to the body paragraphs. Now when coming to the body paragraphs, you need to think of how to organize it as easily as possible for the reader to understand. Remember that coherence and cohesion is all about how easy the examiner will understand what you've written. Like it should be mumbled and jumbled up, this increase, that increase, and it's quite an irregular pattern. And also you should manage paragraphing effectively. There should be a separate paragraph for the introduction, for the 2 body paragraphs, and for the overview. So here there are 2 ways we can organize the overview, the body paragraphs. First we can go for the years, like write each chart in a separate year. First body paragraph for 1981, second body paragraph for 1991, and the third body paragraph for 2001. That's one way. The second way is comparing size by increase and decrease. You can write the most important points that are teachers and workers' salary in one body paragraph and their trends during the years, and the remaining resources, books, furniture, insurance in the second body paragraph. Dear friends, it's all up to you. What do you want to do? For me, I will choose the second option because it's more easy for the reader to understand. Like, it's more advanced. For example, when the reader reads the first body paragraph, won't see any trend. He will just see the percentages of some items, of some categories. And when he moves to the second and the third body paragraph, he will see that this increased, this decreased. So in order to understand, he again has to look towards the body paragraph number 1. That will be a little difficult for him to understand. Secondly, there are 20 minutes for you to understand, like build it up in your mind as well as write. So writing 3 body paragraphs might be a problem for some people, but in the other, like by the size one, you will be writing only 2 body paragraphs, and it also will be easy for the examiner to understand. Now let's write the body paragraphs. So here I am going to be starting by the teacher's salaries. The greatest expenditure was on the teacher's salaries at 40% in 1981, which increased to half of the budget in 1991. Now half of the budget is same as 50%, as it is mentioned in the total school spending in 1991. Remember that you need to paraphrase as much as possible. Don't use the same words again and again, or you will get a lower score for the vocabulary section. Before falling to 45% in 2001. Look, in 2001 it fell to 45%. So here we mentioned the trend for the teacher's salary. Now what can we do the next trend? I would advise you to always move from the top to the bottom one. First start with the teacher's salary, then the worker's salary, which is the second most largest constituent of the budget. So here we'll be writing, by contrast, the worker's salary made up nearly 1/3 of the budget. Instead of 28%, I have written 1/3. That translates to 30%. But I mentioned nearly as well, so it can be considered the same as 28%. In 1981, that decreased dramatically to 15% in the final year. Now here I made a jump from 1981 to 2001. I didn't mention anything about the 1991 total school spending because in the question it is mentioned that you have to report the main features, not every single data. And as the worker salary was continuously decreasing, I just said it decreased from 28% to 15%, which is the perfect thing to do. You remember that you don't need to add everything, because it will result in a lower score for the task response as you did not understand and follow the question properly. The remaining 3 categories will come in the body paragraph number 2. Now talking about the resources books. You can see that the resources books increased from 15% to 20% in 1991, and then it decreased to 9% in 2001. So here we'll be writing, the spending on resources and books fell from 15% to 9% over the years. Here again I didn't mention the 1991 total school spending as I didn't want to include every data. So next comes the furniture and equipment as well as the insurance. Here you can see the furniture and equipment decreases from 15% to 5%, and then it increases to 23% in 2001. So here we can write, while the cost of furniture and equipment decreased to only 5% in 1991, followed by a surge to 23% in 2001. Observe here closely that this time I didn't mention the percentage of the total school spending in the first chart, that is 15%. I directly said it fell to 5%. The same reason we don't want to mention every single data. And followed by a surge. It has the exact same meaning as increased dramatically. and I've used it for the increase from 5% to 23%. It's a nearly 5 times increase, so I use the word surge. Now we're left with the insurance point. We can write, likewise, the expenditure for insurance rose by 4 times from 1981 to 2001. Now instead of writing 2% to 8%, I've written 4 times. That's the same meaning because 2 times 4 is 8. So it's a more advanced way to write and to show the examiner that you possess advanced vocabulary. And we use the word likewise, that means similarly, to show the trend that says followed by a surge to 23%. Here is also dramatic increase, and we mentioned that insurance also showed a dramatic increase from 2% to 8%. Wonderful. We've written a great body paragraph, and the last step is recheck. You need to allocate 3 minutes for the rechecking. Remember, without rechecking, you might have made lots of grammatical mistakes that will continuously add up and result in probably half a band score decrease. So make sure to recheck. Recheck your grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes. Also recheck that you didn't use any inappropriate vocabulary. Remember the rule that says it's better to repeat a word rather than using it incorrectly. Therefore, this summarizes the video, and I hope that now you're able to write an effective band 9 pie chart. And remember, it won't only happen by you watching my videos. You also have to practice until you get better. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get notified of the videos that I upload on this channel. Take care. Allah Hafiz.